Here is a number for you. $80 billion. That is not the GDP of a small country. Well, actually it is, but FIFA wants you to believe it is what the 2026 World Cup will inject into the global economy. $80 billion in gross economic output, $41 billion in global GDP contribution, $17 billion for the United States alone, nearly 300,000 American jobs created, all from a tournament that lasts 5 weeks. The pitch was immaculate, the biggest sporting event in human history. 48 teams, 104 matches, 3 countries, 1 continent, arriving in the wealthiest consumer market on Earth, the United States, for the first time in 32 years. And yet, weeks before the opening whistle, 80% of hotels in U.S. host cities reported their bookings were running below forecast. Some described the event not as a once-in-a-generation economic stimulus, but as a non-event. So what happened between the promise and the reality? And who exactly is getting rich from this? To understand the business of the 2026 World Cup, you have to understand what FIFA actually is. FIFA is not a government. It is not a charity, despite what its tax status once said. FIFA is a machine built to extract maximum value from the one thing that 6 billion people on this planet care about: football, soccer, whatever you want to call it. Every 4 years, that machine runs a tournament, and every 4 years, it gets bigger. More teams, more matches, more money. In 2022, Qatar, FIFA generated around $6 billion in revenue. In 2026, they are projecting nearly $9 billion from the tournament itself, contributing to a $13 billion total for the entire 2023 to 2026 business cycle. That is not revenue from hosting. That is FIFA's own take: broadcasting rights, commercial sponsorships, licensing fees. FIFA does not build stadiums. FIFA does not pay for transport infrastructure. FIFA does not carry the financial risk of a city over-promising and under-delivering. FIFA shows up, runs the tournament, collects the money, and leaves. The host countries absorb the cost. The host countries absorb the risk, and in return, they get the economic spillover, or so the theory goes. In 2026, the United States is betting big on that spillover. Here is the basic structure of how FIFA makes its money. The largest single stream is broadcasting, television rights, streaming rights, the rights to show the World Cup to billions of people across every time zone on Earth. For 2026, sponsorship revenue alone could reach $2.4 billion, a 37% increase over Qatar. Analysts at Ampere Analysis put that figure at the high end of projections, but even the conservative estimate makes it the highest commercial return for any standalone sporting event in history. Then there is prize money, a record $871 million distributed to competing nations. The winning country takes home $53.5 million. Every team, even those eliminated in the group stage, earns at least $12.5 million. This sounds generous. It is, technically. It is also $2 million more per team than Qatar, from a tournament generating twice the revenue. Do the math on that margin. For the United States, the economic model is different. America is not hoping to profit from FIFA's revenue. America is hoping to profit from the people FIFA brings to its doors. The logic is simple. Millions of foreign fans arrive. They buy hotel rooms, they eat in restaurants, they take taxis and ride shares, they shop. They spend money in local economies that filter upward through tax revenue, employment, and business growth. The Bank of America estimated over $17 billion in U.S. economic activity. FIFA and the World Trade Organization jointly projected $30.5 billion in U.S. gross output. With 78 of 104 matches on American soil across 11 cities, including New York, Los Angeles, Dallas, Miami, and Atlanta, the U.S. is positioned as the engine room of the tournament. That is the promise. Now let's talk about the math. The United States economy is depending on how you count it, somewhere between $27 and $29 trillion per year. Even if the most optimistic projection holds, 17 billion in economic activity, that represents less than 0.1% of American GDP, 1/10 of 1%. For context, a moderately bad snow day in the Northeast creates more economic disruption than that. Economists call this the substitution effect. When a major event like the World Cup arrives, it does not simply add money to an economy out of thin air. A significant portion of that spending replaces other spending. The tourist who flies to New York for the semifinal is not spending that money in Paris or Bangkok. The local New Yorker who would have gone to a restaurant that Saturday is priced out of his neighborhood by surge pricing. The family that planned a summer vacation to Miami cancels because flights are too expensive. The money shifts, it concentrates, it does not simply appear. And here is where the numbers start to complicate the narrative. Hotel rates in U.S. host cities surged by an average of over 300% around match days. Houston saw rates increase by 457%. A room that cost $150 a night in June suddenly cost $835. For international fans already paying thousands for flights and tickets, this was not a deterrent, it was a wall. Ticket prices told a similar story. FIFA initially priced final tickets at up to €5,727. Some seats on the secondary market were listed at $8,680. The backlash was significant enough that FIFA eventually slashed prices on certain categories, making some final seats available for $60, a range so absurd it reads like a parody of a pricing strategy. More than 500 million ticket requests flooded in. The demand was real, the access was not. This is where the story gets genuinely strange. The 2026 World Cup has a problem that no previous World Cup has faced in quite this way. The host country itself became a deterrent. The Trump administration's immigration posture, travel bans, visa bans, strict vetting created a chilling effect on international travel to the United States. 65% of hotels surveyed cited visa barriers and geopolitical concerns as direct factors suppressing bookings. Fan groups from across Europe reported members declining to travel. England's official LGBTQ+ supporters group announced it would not organize travel to the U.S. at all, citing safety concerns. In Kansas City, hotel bookings ran 90% below expectations. In Boston, Philadelphia, San Francisco, and Seattle, hotel operators described the tournament as, and this is their word, a non-event. Canadian and Mexican host cities, by contrast, were outpacing their booking forecasts. There is a quiet irony in this. FIFA awarded the 2026 World Cup to a joint bid called United 26, 3 countries, 1 vision, 1 brand, 1 continent coming together. What they got was a tournament where the country hosting 75% of the matches became, for a significant portion of the global audience, a country they were either unable or unwilling to travel to. FIFA had assured member associations that ticket holders would receive visas. The Trump administration confirmed strict vetting would still apply. And in one particularly illustrative episode, a Somali referee who had been assigned to officiate matches was denied entry to the United States entirely. The machine kept running. The receipts were lower than the brochure promised. Here is what gets lost in the billions and the projections. FIFA collects its revenue regardless. Broadcasting deals are signed years in advance. Sponsorship contracts with Adidas, Coca-Cola, Hyundai, Visa, these are locked in. The tournament runs, the cameras broadcast to 6 billion viewers, the sponsors get their global reach, and FIFA gets its $9 billion. Whether the hotels in Kansas City are full or empty does not change FIFA's ledger. Whether an international fan spends $1,000 in Dallas or stays home does not affect the prize money distribution. The financial architecture of this tournament was designed to insulate FIFA from the very risks it helped create through dynamic pricing, restrictive access, and a host nation selection process that placed commercial scale above logistical reality. The 290,000 American jobs the WTO projected, those are largely temporary. Hospitality workers, event staff, security contractors, the kind of employment that appears and disappears over the span of 5 weeks, leaving no permanent structural change to a local economy. The infrastructure bets were smaller this time. The U.S. is leveraging existing stadiums, which is genuinely efficient. But the city still spent on transport upgrades, security systems, and public realm improvements. Some of those investments will compound over time. Some will simply be costs. The sectors that win most cleanly from this tournament are the ones closest to FIFA's own revenue model. Broadcasters, streaming platforms, sponsors, and luxury hospitality operators who serve the global elite that can actually afford the tickets. Everyone else is playing a probability game with thinner margins than the press release suggested. The 2026 FIFA World Cup is genuinely historic. The scale is real, the passion is real. 6 billion people will follow it in some form over the next 5 weeks. That is not nothing. But there's a version of this story where the biggest beneficiary of hosting the largest sporting event in human history is not the United States. It is not the fans who paid $8,000 for a ticket. It is not the hotel worker in Kansas City staring at empty rooms. It is an organization headquartered in Zurich, Switzerland, a city that will host exactly 0 matches, that will collect roughly $9 billion, distribute a fraction of it downward, and begin the process again for 2030. The question worth sitting with is this. In a world where cities compete frantically for the right to host, where politicians celebrate the announcement like a moon landing, who actually negotiated the better deal? FIFA got the biggest World Cup in history in the richest country on earth, backed by billions in projected returns, and the hotels are still waiting for their rooms to fill up.